I'm taking what I say largely from Imam Ghazzali's Ihya Ulumuddin, and this is from what he calls Afatul Lisan, the catastrophes of the tongue, or the problems of the tongue. I never found a good English translation for that. There is a translation by Fazlul Karim, who is a Pakistani scholar, but it's very incomplete and often abridges and often doesn't follow the text closely. So you can look at it if you like. In any case, this is what we will be talking about in the days ahead. Imam al-Ghazali begins this discussion by reminding us of the unique greatness and the miraculous qualities of speech. And he points out to us that God gave us this gift which distinguishes us from all animals. And this is the gift of articulate speech, al-bayan. The angels have this gift, the jinn, the spirits who are quite like us, they have this gift, but animals don't have it, the gift of articulate speech. In the animal kingdom, which includes also insects and fishes, animals can communicate and they can indicate to you what they feel. They can indicate to you their disposition, whether they're hungry, whether they're full, whether they're frightened, whether they're happy. Animals definitely have that, and they can also communicate knowledge. Ants do that very well, but they don't have the gift of articulate speech, which is such a conspicuous part of the reality of the human being and of human society. Our tongues, and of course we refer to the tongue metaphorically as the symbol of the gift of articulate speech, because we do that with our tongues. We do it, of course, with many other things as well, in our brains and in other parts of our body, but when we refer to the tongue, we're really referring to the gift of articulate speech that the human being has been given. And our tongues, Imam al-Ghazali stresses, are the great mediators or intermediators between ourselves and the infinite blessings that are at our hands and the infinite wisdom and knowledge that we as human beings are capable of. Imam al-Ghazali emphasizes that God created human beings good, and everything about us was created to be good and to be wholesome. All human faculties, even things like carnal appetites and anger, these are inherently good. And that good which is in them comes out when they're put in the right place, when they're used properly, when they're controlled by the heart, the intellect, the spirit, in the light of prophetic guidance. But of all human faculties, the faculty of articulate speech, al-bayan, is one of the ones that we have to pay the most attention to, because of the fact that it is capable of such good, just as it is also capable of such harm. And because it's something that is essential to our natures, and for most of us, relatively easy to use, then we have to also be very careful about how we use it, because of the fact that often we do so in a way that is unthinking. Articulate speech, when we use it properly, it lifts us up to be like the angels, who also, of course, have that gift. But when you combine with that everything that you bring with you as the son or the daughter of Adam from the elemental world, the world of the animals and the minerals and the plants, then this transformative gift of speech is what makes you potentially greater than the angels and gives you a role to play in society, in your family and society, in this world, and in the cosmos that is second to no other creature that God created. The gift of articulate speech is the gift that goes with you to the garden. And of all the blessings of the garden, of all the gifts of paradise, one of the ones that we enjoy the most and benefit from the most will be articulate speech. We will hear the speech of God. And the most beautiful moment in your existence to this point has been when you heard it a long time ago. Alastu bi rabbikum, am I not your Lord? And that manifestation of God to you and to me and to all of us, imprinted upon our souls, knowledge that is beyond words, beauty that is connected to truth and virtue, and other things that make us capable of being truly human and of being the vicegerents of God on earth, which is a huge role to play, and which is a trust that you must never forget. As Maulana Jalaluddin Rumi says, you can forget everything else. If you never forget that you carry the trust that the mountains and the earth and the heavens refuse to carry, you're all right. And if you forget that and you remember everything else, your life is a catastrophe. So this is the great secret, and may we live that secret and never forget it. But in the garden, there is no hurtful speech, no harmful speech, no unpleasant speech. There is no false speech, empty speech, meaningless speech. In the garden, there is no laghu, there is no laghiya, there is no ta'thim. These are among the words that Allah uses when He speaks about the perfect speech that the believers are given in the garden among human beings, the jinn and the angels. And of course, if we use speech correctly, then it is also among the greatest joys that we have on earth as well. And of course, here in the blessed company of Maulana Jalaluddin Rumi, may Allah give us the fullness of His blessing, and those of the great saints around him, like Sadruddin Qunawi and Shams Tabrizi. These were great saints, beyond measure. But especially in the case of Maulana Jalaluddin, the gift that he was given to unlock all other gifts was the gift of speech. Beautiful, precious speech that was able to unlock treasures that continue to inspire and to guide people to this day. We must train ourselves to be like that. We must be very conscious of how we use our tongues. We've got to wake up to that. And we have to be thankful to God that He gave us this paradisial gift, this Adamic gift, which is the secret to our being. And in this, when we speak, We want to always walk in the shade of the Quran. And of course, we love the Quran, we memorize the Quran, we contemplate the Quran, but also we learn from the Quran the secrets of speech, the paradigms of speech, the standards of speech. And in addition to that, of course, there are the blessed words of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Imam Ghazzali says the Prophet was given jawahir al-hikami qata'an wa jawami' al-kalimi ولا يعرف ما تحت آحاد كلماته من بحار المعاني إلا خواص العلماء. So he says the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam was given beyond any doubt precious jewels of wisdom and concise words to express them that brought together all knowledge. No one knows the seas of the oceans of meanings that lie hidden under each of the individual words that the Prophet spoke, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, except for the most extraordinary of scholars, men and women. And they never cease to be amazed by how beautiful these words are. And this is true of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, of all the messengers, and it's true also of the awliya, who are those men and women like you, who seek to be heirs of the messengers and the prophets. And one of the marks of the awliya that so often occurs with them is that they are given precious gifts of speech, beautiful words that unlock hearts and convey meanings. We are speech creatures, therefore. We're also heart creatures. We are creatures of the heart. We are creatures of the spirit. We are creatures of the intellect. And we are elemental creatures made from the elements of the mineral world, the plant world, and the animal world. But again, above all, we are speech creatures. This is our native zone. This is our essential element. And we need to emphasize here what a miracle language is and the gift of speech. There's nothing arbitrary, there is nothing accidental, and there is nothing evolutionary in the sense of the evolutionist understanding of that word about speech. Speech is always a miracle. Our speech organs, everything connected with them, our mental capacities that enable us to speak, to learn to speak to others, to understand speech. These are perfectly, miraculously, and minutely designed. And in fact, they disprove, among many other things, the pseudo-metaphysics of evolutionism. For example, the more ancient the human tongue, the more precious the treasury it contains. And although we don't know a great deal about ancient tongues because most of them were never written down, but whenever we find a tongue that takes us back into the ancient past, at least 7,000 years or 10,000 years, like Old Iranian or like Sanskrit, these are incredible tongues. And there are other ones like that as well among various peoples of the world. And among those ancient tongues that have been preserved is the Arabic language. And you should know that in the family to which Arabic belongs, which is called Afro-Asian, we used to call it Hamitic Semitic, Arabic stands at the most ancient level of every single tongue in that family. Arabic is much more ancient than Babylonian, or Akkadian, or Assyrian, or the language of the pharaohs of Egypt, which all belong to that family. And how could that be? Why is that? Well, maybe if we have questions, we could talk about that, because it's a very interesting story. But the Arabic language is an ancient, ancient tongue. And if we compare it with the other ancient tongues that belong to its family, like those that I mentioned, then we can say that easily the Arabic tongue as spoken by the Blessed Prophet ﷺ 1,400 and so many years ago was probably spoken by his people for at least 10,000 years before that. So that takes us back into a period which historians regard to be very, very ancient. So what were those people like? Those were not barbarians. Those were not ignorant people. Those were people simply because they possessed the gift of this language, no doubt in the light of prophecy, which would be pre-Abrahamic prophecy, that they were capable of amazing things. This is one of the reasons why Arnold Toynbee, who is a person who is worthy of our study as a group, contends that the ancient human beings, the prehistorical human beings of what is rudely called the Old Stone Age, we have to be very careful about these plastic words we're given, because they're usually counterfeit. But, that those people were the best and the most intelligent and the most spiritually developed. And Arnold Toynbee doesn't say that lightly. He says that on the basis of very careful study and thought. And of course, that's what we believe, and that's what most traditions believe. Sullatun min al-awwalin. There are a lot of these muqarrabin, sabiqeen, the people brought close to God, who precede all others, who outrace them in the first generations, and a few of the later generations like our own. So the history of human beings is a history of devolution and demolition. It's not the other way around. We did not evolve the ability to speak. That's really an obscene idea and has no merit whatsoever. Nevertheless, if you want to make human beings human, you've got to teach them how to speak. And you have to give them words that are not counterfeit, words that are not plastic, words that are real, words that are adequate. And all of our dictionaries actually contain words like that, but we don't learn from the dictionaries anymore. And we play with language, and we abuse language all the time. If you want to destroy a people and enslave a people, destroy their language. And then basically you will be able to do with them anything that you want. Most people today, in the West and in the world, and even among our own ranks as Muslims, can't think. They can't reflect. And this is because they don't have the words to do it. They don't have the cognitive frames to do it. They don't know what you need to have to say and to think to unlock these secrets. If you want to give people freedom and you want to make them great, then you've got to give them language. But it's got to be real. And we ask God, since we are English speakers and we are Muslims, that He enable us to make this English language the vehicle of truth and of Islam. And that's true of French and German and any other language that we use. We have got to get these languages in order, just as our predecessors did with Turkish or with Urdu or with Persian, or with Mandinka, or with other great languages of our past. We said before that all of our faculties are created good. Most of those faculties, like eating, drinking, sexual appetite, are biological, very biological. Again, they're created to be good if they're used properly. But they are instinctual and they have an animal aspect to them. And this is where speech is very different, because speech is a lordly attribute. It is a lordly attribute. That's why it distinguishes us from the mineral and the plant and the animal kingdom. And you have 7 lordly attributes. And you'll be asked about them on the day of judgment. Sight, you can see. Hearing, you can hear. Knowledge, you can think. Life, which is the foundation of all of that. And then you have will, the ability to make choices, the ability to make things, that I will make a cup that is shaped like this. And the glassmaker can then make it. That's will, power. You are given the ability to intervene in creation and to make things like this cup, this glass, or this cane, or a million other things. Power. And then speech. And speech is a lordly attribute. And of all of our lordly attributes, in many ways, it is the king, because it is the one that enables us to coordinate and develop all these others. If we use speech as well as these other lordly attributes, which are again what? Life, knowledge, will, power, hearing, seeing, and speech, the great 7. If you use them correctly and carefully, then you are able to soar and to become the highest of the high. And when we betray them and we misuse them, then we don't become animals. The animal human being is not that bad. We become lower than the animals. We become demonic. And we become maybe even less than that, because unfortunately we are even capable of a demonic reality that is worse than Satan himself and the demons. So speech then is a sword with 2 edges, and you want to be careful not to cut yourself with it. It has a good edge, which is the power of speech to unlock and to bring infinite good. And again, this is one of the great gifts that Maulana Jalaluddin Rumi is given. And you really cannot imagine what a great gift was given to him. His words are intoxicating. The Persian language has always been one of the greatest of all Sunni languages. Every Persian poet was a Sunni. And the things that Jalaluddin does with that language alone make it worth your while to learn Persian. An extremely beautiful tongue. But what he does with that, you can only be in awe of, and that's because God gave it to him as a gift. Speech enables us to do many things, like to declare belief, right? La ilaha illallah, Muhammadur Rasulullah, a speech act. We know the story of the man who had to free a believing slave. And so he found this girl who was an African. Nubian, Ethiopian, and she either had a speech defect or she was dumb, meaning that she couldn't speak, or mute. And so he doesn't really know if she's a believer or not because she can't say it. And so therefore he brought her to the Prophet ﷺ, and the Prophet asked her, "Where is Allah?" Or in other transmissions, "What is Allah?" or "Who is Allah?" That hadith has many transmissions. And then she points to the sky, because she can't speak. Because this is a very unusual type of behavior. And then the Prophet asks her, "And who am I?" So she's a believer. So he says, you can free her. But she doesn't have the gift of speech. Precious angel that she is. You have that gift. And this gift then easily enables you to declare words that are more precious than all the world. The great prophet Solomon, may Allah be pleased with him, to whom God gave an earthly kingdom that no one will have anything like, including control over the jinn and the animals, was once in a great procession with the jinn, with the human beings who were under his control. Tremendous wealth. They say the birds were flying above him, even shading him. And one of the righteous men of the children of Israel said, "Son of David," as he's Solomon, the son of David, "what a great kingdom you have indeed been given. No human being has been given the likes of it." And Solomon said to the righteous man of the children of Israel, he said, "What the son of David has been given," meaning Solomon, "is not worth a single tasbihah, a single word of the glorification of God from the likes of you. You say Subhanallah, and that is worth more than the entire kingdom that was given to Solomon." But what does that tell you about the words? What does that tell you about the secret, the cosmic secrets that are there in the speech? Maulana Jalaluddin Rumi, may Allah bless us by being in his presence, in his holy city. This is a holy city. If you can't feel that, then I hope you feel it before you leave. This is a holy city. And that's because al-makanu bil-makin, the place is always judged by the one who's there. And that is Maulana Jalaluddin and Shams Tabrizi and Sadruddin Qunawi and many other awliya. It makes it a very special place, one of the bastions of truth in the world forever. And the people of Konya are not like other people. The people of Konya are very special. The Turks are very special. Muslims are very special. But people who come from cities like this, they are not ordinary, because they are the guests of a great host. But Maulana Jalaluddin, he says, God gives you good words. This is in a poem called Al-Kalimu Tayyiba, the good words. And he means, La ilaha illallah. Is there any better word? No. That's the most beautiful word of all. And he said, the fragrant scent of these words you speak mounts up to heaven. The breaths of praise that come out of your mouth soar up like angels as a gift to God. You give him that gift. Subhanallah, Alhamdulillah, La ilaha illallah, Wallahu Akbar. May Allah enable us to be unveiled by those words and to understand how great they are. And this creates for you a special place in the eternal abode. And then God answers you with even more beautiful words. This is also part of your secret as the son of Adam, that when you mention God, and we are here to mention God, this is a majlis of dhikr. That's what we're doing. What are we talking about? God. That's what we're talking about, Allah. And he mentions your name there, and your name, and my name. And the angels write it down. And if you could hear the scratch of the pen, you would die of ecstasy. Not to mention if you could hear the words or see what is written. So who are you, son of Adam, daughter of Adam? What powers you were given? You mention God and He mentions you above the seventh heaven, and the beautiful words He gave you to send up to Him as a gift from Him to Him. They come back as an even greater gift. And they unlock in you even greater secrets. So be aware of that. Wake up to that. God answers you with even more beautiful words. Don't you remember the nights when you spoke to God and you cried and you really, there was no veil between you that night? He gave you that gift, and He gave you back a gift that was even greater. So speech, dhikr, invocation, this is a powerful thing. This is a powerful thing. And as a recompense to that, and a reward for that, and a mercy, then God gives you even greater words, even greater ways of ascent. And again, the epitome of that for us here in this blessed city is Maulana Jalaluddin. May you know that, and may you come to know that even better. We ask God then with even more beautiful words, and they might be exactly the same, but they're not the same, because now they have in them something from you that they didn't have before. Some purity, some sincerity, some truthfulness, some presence that you didn't have before. And this goes on without rest, without ceasing, especially for men and women of God, men and women of the spiritual path. And it draws you closer and closer, and it makes you go higher and higher. Until your soul, Maulana Jalaluddin says, finally comes home. Where's your home? The garden. Where were you created? In the garden. You don't belong here. You are here in a foreign place, and you're an alien here. Your home is the garden, and may we all go home. That's where we belong. This is not our home. And there's another place which is not our home either. And it becomes the abode of those who totally forgot their home and turned their backs on everything it stands for. So you come home finally. May Allah join us all in the garden, and may He make our life in this world a perpetual garden of the knowledge of God. So, language is an amazing thing. And one of the things that we can talk about, probably we shouldn't talk about it much because we want to cover some territory, is that, words have to be real. Words have got to be right. Arabic words are like that, but you've got to learn them. Persian words are like that. Why? Because they had smiths like Hafiz and Sa'di and Sana'i and Jalaluddin Rumi and Firdausi. These were smiths, wordsmiths. And in English, you be a smith too. And English is a beautiful language, by the way. And English is a blessed language. I would be happy to explain that to you at another time. Don't take this language lightly. It's a great tongue. So is French, so is Spanish, so is German, so is Russian. These are languages all rooted in primordial humanity. And we as Muslims have to use them the way that your fathers and forefathers used Urdu or Bengali or Punjabi and made these into great languages. Great languages. Wordsmithing. And that's actually in Saxon what poetry is. Working with words. Smithing words. Taking words to the forge with the hammer and making words that can fly. So, speech then is very important. And one of the things about real words, not plastic words, most of the words that we are bombarded with today are counterfeit. They are plastic. They don't have a denotation. Nature. What in the world is nature? Has a beginning? Does it have an end? Does it have a will? Does it have a power? Does it have a persona? Would you please tell me what you mean by this word? It is a filler for God. Okay? It is a cop-out. And many of our words are that way. Words we use every day. So we have got to wake up also to the way we use words and what we mean by words. But also, true words, they don't have cognitive closure. And we don't want to go into that in great detail, but they are apertures, they are openings that have connotation. Okay, they have connotation, they have adequate real meaning, but then they open up and open up and open up and take you to places where you could have never gone otherwise. So speech, when we use speech as speech creatures that is real, conveys meanings that you and I can never fully grasp, at least not right now. Imam Ghazzali says, there is nothing that exists, there is nothing that does not exist, there is nothing real, there is nothing imagined and unreal. There is nothing created, there's not even the creator. But that speech has the ability to access that thing or that being, that reality or unreality about which we speak. To affirm it, to deny it, to unlock its secrets or to lock its secrets up, to know it. And you have the ability to know. You are a subject and this world is an object. But did you know that you were its brother? Did you know that you were its sister? Imam Jalaluddin will tell you about that, and many of the other great saints will tell you about that. That's our tradition. That's our sound metaphysics, that you are a microcosm, a little world. And this around you is a macrocosm, the big world. And you are its blueprint. And it is your blueprint. Islamic science, which was real science, we studied in order to learn about ourselves. Because if I study about water respectfully and correctly, I learn about my own self. Okay, because we are blueprints of this world. And so although there is subject-object at this level, because of my kinship, relationship with the blade of grass, I can actually know it. I can know it completely. That's very important. And these are among the major confusions of the modernists and the postmodernists, who live in a world of dualism from which there is no escape. Nothing comes under the heading of knowledge, real knowledge, but that it also comes under the heading of speech, real speech. And one of the things about real speech is supreme adequacy, supremely adequate. Okay, and this is the language we use, whether in Arabic, Persian, Urdu, English, Spanish, or whatever it may be. Imam Jalaluddin, Maulana Jalaluddin Rumi, he says in a poem, ripeness is all. He says, since you cannot bear the unveiled light of God, you can't bear it, neither can I. We would disappear. The Prophet ﷺ said that between us and God are 70,000 veils of dark and light, of light and darkness. If you heard any of them rustle, you would cease to exist. You might come back. We call that fana. And you might come back and then you would be something else. You would be something greater. Although you need help in that, you don't dare embark on a journey like that on your own. But these are veils of majesty and beauty. 70,000. You cannot bear that light. When Gabriel, on the night of the Ascension, the Mi'raj, brings the Blessed Prophet, the most perfect of all created beings, without any question, to the furthest lot tree, Sidrat al-Muntaha, he can't go further, because he says, between me and God are 70 veils of light and darkness. If I heard any of them rustle, I would cease to exist. 70, not 70,000. And then the Prophet goes with Rafraf, and he comes into the presence of God. Okay? But you can't bear the unveiled light. So drink in the words of wisdom that God has given you. In the Quran, in the Hadith, in the great awliya, in the Mathnawi of Mawlana Jalaluddin. Drink in the words of wisdom. These were gifts because their light is veiled. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. The light that is veiled in those precious words is enough to extinguish all created being. And yet it unveils itself to you little by little, from the time that you were a little girl and memorized it for the first time, or a little boy. And that light is then unveiled more and more and more. And by absorbing the divine, prophetic, and spiritual truth that is in these perfect words, kalimatun tammat, perfect words, these good words, this dhikr, invocation with fikr, then you are gradually brought to what? Unveiling, which is that the light is given to you. Your heart is expanded. Your heart becomes pure. Your heart has in it no place for anything else but God. And then the light comes, little by little by little, until you are unveiled. And then you become a miracle on earth. And you become a source of mercy and goodness. But this has to be step by step. It has to be little by little until you come to the point of arrival and then entrance. And you don't walk that journey on your own. You need others to be there with you. And if God wills, then this brings us illumination, contemplation, reflection, understanding, compassion, empathy, and the knowledge of God that is beyond words. Among the most important blessings of words is that you can ask forgiveness. You can do tawbah. And the great awliya of Allah, like Mawlana Jalaluddin, blessed be his name, almost everything they do is taken from a hadith, or is taken from the Quran. Or it might be taken, from a story of a great wali, like Junaid as-Salik, or Abu Yazid al-Bistami, or something like that. But there is a hadith about two men who were Muslims of our community or some other community before us, and they're condemned on the Day of Judgment to the fire. And then they go to the fire, but one of them speaks to God and is forgiven.